Here is an overcomplicated formula. Okay, maybe I should explain what's going on here. But first, an introduction. Hello everyone, my name is... a transferred college student. As such, I do not have the most money laying around, so instead of finding a job, I decided to make an equation to determine what games I should buy. No typical behavior, I know. Today, I will explain this equation to you. I first explain it from top to bottom, analyzing a game I already own with it, and one I do not, in order to determine if I should buy said game. Now, there are a few limits to this equation. For one, it doesn't keep in mind non-entertainment impacts of a game. For example, the Beginner's Guide isn't a very fun game to play. The linear walking sim lasts for about an hour and a half, and as such, scores abysmally on my equation. However, the storytelling and reflections one can make from it, despite the lack of fun, makes the experience worth it. So it's not like this is the be-all and end-all of if games are worth it. Lastly, this equation will probably not be helpful for anyone but me, but without further ado, let's get into it. Let's start with our main equation and work downward. We have E times FA sub O plus V over P equals V. This equation means that the total entertainment from a game times an out-of-game fandom multiplier plus a bonus factor divided by the price of the game equals the value of the game. Price makes sense. If a game is twice as pricey, you should expect twice the value. If we want to maximize efficiency, we want to maximize the value per dollar. The bonus value is just minor things that aren't included in the main entertainment of the game, maybe a part of the game or out of it. This includes things like sound tests or some personal reasoning to play the game. For most games, this will be a small positive value. The out-of-game fandom multiplier represents how a fandom of a game changes the perspective of the game experience in its entirety. Games of high values here are often multiplayer titles like fighting games, or indie titles like Deltarune and Hollow Knight with tight-knit fan bases. The entertainment value is the most important part of the equation, and is for determining how much cumulative fun you'll get out of the game. It is calculated by the sum of all the entertainment values of all single and multiplayer game modes. Each individual mode has a minimum value of 0, as if a game mode were to have negative fun, it would be just best to not play the mode at all.
If it's not fun, why bother?
And thus it has a value of 0. Now, the single and multiplayer entertainment value equations are very similar, so I'll start with single player. The formula for single player is S sub n equals L sub ns times T sub ns times Sk sub ns divided by 1 minus Re sub ns. Translating this into natural speech, this means that the entertainment of a single-player game mode is equal to the product of how fun the game is, times the length of a playthrough in minutes, times the skill factor, divided by 1 minus the replayability from 0 to 1. The estimate of how fun a game is makes sense. Games are supposed to be fun. Time also makes sense. A game that is just as fun, worth twice the content, has twice the entertainment value. Replayability is measured from 0 to 1. With the logic of future playthroughs of this game mode should be about Re sub ns times as fun as the last time. So at the value of 0.4, each playthrough is 40% as fun as the last one. You might recognize this as the equation for the sum of geometric series, which is a divided by 1 minus r. Each value being a certain percentage of the last value is by definition a geometric series, so it is perfect for this situation. Roguelike games and multiplayer modes usually have a very high replayability value, which makes up for the short playtimes. The skill factor is important to determine whether a game is actually fun to play for your skill level. After all, if the game is so hard that you can't actually play it, it will hardly be fun. It is calculated by Sk sub n equals 1 plus S sub n times Ca sub n, where skill is, well, my estimated skill of the game mode, determined from my past experiences in the genre and, if possible, previous games of the series, and the care factor being how much being skilled even matters. Games like Dark Souls and Kirby typically care much differently about how skilled the player is to have fun with them, and as such have different care factors. The multiplayer equation is about the same as the single player one, but adding a factor for the fandom in that mode. Once again, demonstrating how people that play the game affects how fun it is. Note that this factor applies specifically to how a fandom affects the entertainment of this one mode, and not the game overall. Now, let's get started by testing out this equation in action. Persona 3 Reload is a 2024 role-playing video game developed and published by Atlus. Reload is a remake of Persona 3 Wait, maybe I shouldn't just quote Wikipedia. TLDR is a RPG that's a part of the Persona series, and the larger Megami Tensei series as a whole, where you must spend time wisely to level up your social links and climb Tartarus to discover the mystery of the Dark Hour, a secret hour that occurs at midnight. Now, I love this game, but let's put it through the Omega and see how high of a value it has in reality. How Long to Beat puts the story at 64.5 hours, which translates to 3,870 minutes. Such a high playtime helps contribute to why I play so many RPGs. For a fun factor, I'd say that Persona 3 Reload is one of the best JRPGs out there and really helped me revitalize my excitement for the genre, so I will give it a solid 4.2 times multiplier. As for skill factor, Mega 10 is generally a difficult series. However, this remake of 3 changes many features, such as PRGs to make it easier for newcomers to the series, only being considered more difficult than the enhanced version of Persona 5, Persona 5 Royal, by a lot of the Mega 10 fandom. For this, I'll give the game a carrying value of 1.6 for being above average difficulty and being satisfying to pull off a well-strategized battle, but not being that bad in the grand scheme of things. I'd say I've had some pretty decent knowledge of the game systems, but I don't yet have comprehensive knowledge to say I'm amazing at. That's a solid 0.5 multiplier. Being a long JRPG, it's hard to get yourself to do multiple playthroughs. The fact that it's easy to miss a few social links on your first one, and the fact that there's a good new game plus for this game, can still earn a point for your playability. The Out fandom gives a solid 1.2 for being mostly normal, having a decent enough fanbase most of the time. I won't give it any real bonuses, and the game currently costs $30 on Steam. I bought it on sale, but for the case of this exercise, I will use the base price. Now, let's put all of this together. First, the skill factor. 0.5 and 1.6 combined to 0.8, plus 1 is 1.8, times 3,870 minutes, times the fun factor is 4.2, equals 29,257.2. 1 minus 0.3 equals 0.7, which divided from 29,257.2 makes 41,696. We have no other gamers, so let's times this by our Out fandom value to get 50,155.2, add our bonus score of 100, and divide by 70 for a total score of 730.788571 entertainment minutes per dollar, which is pretty good. Overall, I hope this has helped you peer into my neurodivergent brain. Well, I'll see you next. Okay, maybe it would be best to put this equation to use to see if I should actually buy a new game. I see you. Well, if you insist, I'll test a game I've avoided for a long time, one I sneakily teased throughout this whole video. Splatoon 3 is the third entry in the Splatoon series of multiplayer shooter games by Nintendo. I picked up the second entry when it came out, but never really touched the multiplayer mode as I sucked at the game. As such, I never picked up Splatoon 3 when it came out. But here's a bet I'm making to you now. If the score Splatoon 3 gets is higher than Reload, I will purchase it. As I have not written this portion of the script, I do not know the result yet, so let's learn the results together. Before we get into the game modes, let us discuss the upper level variables. The game costs $60. Or does it? As of recording, it is still 2025, which means the Nintendo Switch voucher program is still active, for which Splatoon 3 is eligible for. Since you can buy 2 vouchers for $100, one effectively costs $50, meaning Splatoon 3 has an effective cost of $50. I think the game has a generally cool fandom, so I'd say that's a 1.5. And finally, a bonus score of 1000 for personal reasons. Now, Splatoon 3 has several game modes, so let's go one by one. Some similar modes will be merged for the sake of time. The main story mode of Splatoon 3, Return of the Mammalians, according, again, to HowLongToBeat.com, takes approximately 8.5 hours, or 510 minutes, to beat. The overall gameplay loop of Splatoon is fairly satisfying, so I would give the mode a 3.2. For a skill factor, I'd say my skill is at a negative 0.3, as I wasn't that good at Splatoon 2, and most skills transfer over. Never even 100%ed the Octo expansion, that damned Inner Agent 3. Thankfully, I heard 3's campaign isn't as hard as Octo expansions, so I'll give it a 0.7k multiplier. As for replayability, the game has a high skill ceiling, which allows for a few playthroughs without getting stale, so 0.45. Putting the numbers together, 3.2 times 510 times 1 plus negative 0.3 times 0.7 over 1 minus 0.45 give us 2,344.14545. If we put it through the final calculation, the score would be 90.3243634, much less than Persona 3 Reload so far. Good thing this game has more modes. Turquoise, the main multiplayer mode of Splatoon, playable during regular and Splatfest battles. Two teams of four spend 3 minutes trying to ink as much horizontal area as possible, and win if they have more area inked at the end than the opposing team. This mode has not changed at its core since the first game. However, being the main multiplayer mode, it has been refined and improved with the game's mechanics, so I will give it a 3.6 as it is more fun than the story. For skill, I'd give myself a negative 0.4 as I know even less about the general team play of the game, and I can't multiplayer of 1. Playability is high, as is typical for multiplayer game modes, so I will give this a 0.999, as a fairly typical number for multiplayer games with short rounds. For fandom, this is a very casual mode and no voice chat. Yes, it's a Nintendo Switch Online app, but who uses that? So I'll give it a simple 1.1. Blending the calculations, 3.6 times 3 times 1 minus 0.4 times 1 times 1.1 divided by 1 minus 0.999 equals 7,128. The competitive ranked modes of Splatoon 3 are Anarchy Battles and X Battles. I've lumped these two modes together for the sake of brevity, and they let you play one of 4 game modes. Splat Zones, where you try to take control of 1 or 2 areas. Tower Control, where you try to fight a tower to the opponent's base. Clam Blitz, where you try to collect clams to throw into the enemy goal. And Rainmaker, where you try to pick up the Rainmaker and take it toward the enemy base. All of these game modes last 5 minutes, but it could be less or more if an early knockout occurs or if the game reaches overtime. Anarchy Battles are unlocked at level 10. Automatically if you import Splatoon 2 save data. Avoiding getting into the details, because that's out of the purview of this video, you can either play singular open games or a series where you try to win 5 before losing 3, gaining or losing points until you can try a rank up series, you can try to win 3 before losing 3. You start C-, unless you had a B- rank on Splatoon 2 imported data, and work your way up to a maximum of S plus 50. X battles unlock when you reach S plus 0. X battles use X power to determine player skill, which go up or down based on your performance in a series of games, concluding at 3 wins or losses. Now, between seasons, your Anarchy rank will drop a few below your highest, and even down to S at S plus 9, or to S plus 0 any higher, and X points resetting. However, with these game modes, players will usually have access to their favorite game modes. I see the variety in team play lends the mode a 3.8. Being more competitive, the care factor goes up to 1.2, but my skill stays the same at negative 0.4. Fandom helps a bit more with team play, so 1.2. The playability is the same at 0.999. 3.8 times 5 times 1 minus 0.4 times 1.2 times 1.2 over 1 minus 999 equals 11,856. Salmon Run returns from Splatoon 2 as Next Wave. In it, you try to collect eggs from salmonids without letting your teammates all get splattered in time. Each shift consists of 3 raids, lasting 100 seconds, which might be high or low tide, changing the battlefield. At the end, the King Salmonid might appear as an extra phase after the third. Even if you lose to it, it still counts as completing the shift. But if you win, you're in for big rewards. Keeping in mind wave transitions, possibilities of early wipes, and the King Salmonid, I'll give this 5.5 minutes. For fun factor, it doesn't quite have the same dynamic factor of multiplayer, but it's still a decent loop, so 3.4. For skill, it's not competitive, so I need less of the team dynamics. I don't know. So carrying 0.8, skill minus 0.35. Phantom is very low here compared to the others, so 1.05. And the loop does seem to get stale a lot quicker compared to Versus, so 0.975. 3.4 times 5.5 times 1 minus 0.35 times 0.8 times 1.05 divided by 1 minus 0.975 equals 565.488. Here's a couple other game modes not big enough to justify their own segment, so I'll cover them quickly here. Challenge. These are like the other main multiplayer game modes, but have changes to the gameplay. For example, making players use weapons with specific specials, or making players queue in teams of 2. Table Tiff. Hey, I heard you like game modes that you forget exist every day. Table Tiff is a mode where 2 players take 12 turns trying to ink as much area as possible on a game board, and most inked area wins. It's a very condensed turf war. As for numbers, Challenge gets 3.7 more, being basically the main modes, as it's like the other main modes, but it balances with the sake of making a fun gimmick. Time gets 4, as Turf War or normal ranked battles can appear. Following this pattern, basically every other stat is between ranked and normal except for playability. Since the less balanced and being the same as other modes, I give the mode a 0.975 there. 3.7 times 4 times 1 minus 0.4 times 1.1 times 1.15 divided by 1 minus 0.975. As for Table Tiff, it's not much, 2.5 for fun, because it does seem like a decent strategic side mode. Of course the length changes based off of how much you think, but I'd say it's about 4.5 minutes per match. Bleh, just throw up the numbers. Calculating those out, Challenge 381.248, Table Tiff 119.925. Adding all of our modes together, 22,394.80,64545 times 1.5 equals 32,592 plus 1,000 equals 34,592.2097 plus 50 equals a grand total of 691.844194, which is less than P3R. Man, with all the modes and being a competitive multiplayer game with high replayability and a decent fandom, I thought it would come out on top. I suppose I just favor the long length of P3R and the mega-intensifying difficulty. Come back with a roguelike next time, maybe you'll get me. Oh, right! Splatoon 3's expansion pack introduces a new game mode, Side Order. Side Order is a roguelike game mode where you add color chips to your palette, clear floors until you reach 430 to defeat Order. Ready to see why I love roguelikes? For fun value, I love roguelikes. Randomization makes the player have to prepare for the future on the fly in combination with the player's skill. I'll give this a 4.3. Time gets about 45 minutes from what I've heard. For skill, I might not be the best at Splatoon, but I am good at planning and strategizing, so probably 0.3 for skill and 0.8 for care factor. Playability. This combines with the length of the run to give us what makes roguelikes shine. I'll estimate a 0.985 of playability for the mode. With that, 4.3 times 45 times 1 plus zero point 0.3 times zero point 0.8 divided by 1 minus 0.985 equals 15,996. Let's add this in. 15,996 adds onto the existing 22,394 to make 38,390.8065 times 1.5 gets 57,586.2097. Add 1,000 plus 58,586.2097 divided by 50. Wait, no, this is DLC that costs $25, so 75 total. Divide by 75 to get our final total of 771.816129. That is higher than Persona 3 Reload at a score of about 730, which means I will be buying Splatoon 3 and the expansion pass.
Make sure I release it in. Release in December. That makes sense. Well, where is it? Splatoon 3. There we go. It got loaded. Now it's downloading. Yippee!
Well, I hope you enjoyed my ranting for however long it lasted. I'm gonna take a cat nap now. Goodbye!